friends, welcome back to Food Prep Guide. I have a fun project with basil to do today and thought I would bring you along and show you a way to preserve basil if you just don't want to do pesto, or maybe you, like me, already have plenty of pesto in your freezer and still have more basil coming in. This is a way that you can preserve it that is really fantastic for throwing into soups and sauces. I will use this in my tomato basil soup that I make all throughout the year, and I will toss some in our spaghetti sauce pretty much every time we make it. And I also like to put it on our pizza sauce as well before we add on all of our other toppings. And so it's basically, we're gonna freeze it, and I'm gonna show you a method of doing it to where it freezes it in portion sizes and doesn't get nasty and freezer burn and doesn't really lose its flavor much at all. Of course, it's going to be a little bit more muted than fresh, but it is going to taste so much better than dehydrated. Dehydrating is another great way to preserve basil, but you do lose out on some of those potency of both the aroma and the flavor, and freezing it using the method that I'm about to show you helps retain a lot of that flavor and aroma. Okay, let's get started. By the way, if you would like help building your food storage, scroll down to the description box of this video and click this link for our free 1-year food storage plan. We calculated a year's supply of food for one person, then broke that data down into a week-by-week list of items to build your pantry on a budget. We'll send it straight to your inbox. If you're new here, we invite you to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss all of our upcoming food preservation, pantry storage, and gardening tutorials. Now back to the kitchen. So the first step is just to de-stem our basil, and I don't have any kind of trick for that. I used to try to use like a fork and scrape it along the leaves. I've tried a strainer bowl where you stick the stem through the hole of a strainer and it kind of strips it. And that's all fine and good, but to me it doesn't seem like it saves a whole lot of time versus just doing it this way. I did want to mention this basil is already starting to bolt. This is what it looks like when a basil starts to bolt. Let me move these leaves a little bit. And the reason why I'm mentioning this is because basil flowers are totally edible. The basil is still completely edible when it's at this stage, and even when it flowers. The flowers are edible too. They are a little bit spicy. They are much stronger of a taste than the leaves themselves, and really like borderline spicy. But this little stalk here, this little, not really stalk, but this blossom will continue to get taller and taller and taller, and then little white flowers will start forming all along this little bit right here. But like I said, they're completely edible. I'm not going to worry about taking those off. And, you know, if that makes it into our basil, that is totally fine. So I'm just going to get all of this de-stemmed real quick, and we'll move on to the next step. About halfway through de-stemming, I got smart and got my salad spinner. I was sitting there thinking, why am I sitting here just throwing this basil on the counter when I'm gonna have to clean it anyway? Why don't I just put it in my strainer bowl? Okay, so I'm gonna take this over to the sink and give this a good wash and then give it a good spin. I actually don't love washing my herbs because I feel like I can't ever get them fully dry, but the salad spinner helps. And there were just way too many bugs on this basil for me to be comfortable with not washing it. We don't spray anything in our garden, so I could technically get away with not washing it and not really worry about anything. But there were just little bugs coming off onto my counter from that basil, and I don't want to put any bugs in my finished product, so I went ahead and washed it. And yep, there are some bugs in the water, just as I thought they would be. But we'll just get that as dry as we can before moving on to the next step. And we are ready to move on to the next step. So for this freezer method, all we need is our basil and some olive oil. And I'm going to be using my food processor. This would work in a blender as well, I'm sure. So what I'm going to do is just put a little bit of olive oil in the bottom of the food processor first. Not a whole lot, just enough to kind of get the basil moving around. Maybe not even a full tablespoon. I'm gonna take it off and kind of move it around a little bit. Coat the bottom of it good. Okay, And then we are just going to load in our basil, and I'm going to see if I'm going to need to do this in multiple batches or not. Sometimes it just all depends on how much I have. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and divide this into 2 batches because this is about full and I still have half a basket to go. Okay, so let me kind of pull this away a little bit. What we're going to do is utilize this little tunnel part of our food processor so that we can add oil as we are blending. There you go. Now you can see. Okay, so I am going to go ahead and turn it on, and it's going to be really loud while it goes, so I'm not going to be talking while I do it, but you will just see me drizzling in olive oil at this top spout while it's running until the basil looks like it's a good puree. We don't want it to be soaking in oil when all is said and done. We just need enough oil to get it into a smooth puree, and that's the kind of the texture that we're going for there, okay? There's a clump right here that's getting stuck, so I'm going to get a spatula real quick and push that down and kind of get it away from there. I'm going to go ahead and scrape down the sides while I'm in here as well. And then we'll just keep on going. I can already tell I still need more oil, so I'm just going to very slowly drizzle it in while it's running. Okay, it's looking good, but I'm going to scrape down the sides one more time. And I think I'm going to do just a little bit more olive oil because it's still staying really chunky, which is fine. But since I am putting this in soups and sauces, I personally want it to be a little bit finer than this. You can see it's really still pretty chunky. So I'm going to continue adding just a little bit more olive oil until this gets broken down a little finer. But as far as preservation goes, you could stop at this point. It would be just fine in the freezer. Okay, I'm happy with that. Still a little chunky, but I personally don't want the olive oil to overpower the flavor of the basil. So while I do want it to be a nice kind of smoother puree, I'm okay with using a little bit less so that it doesn't overpower, the olive oil doesn't overpower the basil. Okay, I'm going to get this scooped out into a bowl and then run the rest of this basil through the food processor, do the exact same thing, and we'll bring you back for the next step. Here is what we ended up with. It doesn't look very appetizing, but boy does it smell good, and will it taste delicious in future sauces and pasta sauce, soups, pizza bases, things like that. So next we need one of these fun guys. These are one of those poppable ice cube trays. They're kind of silicone. You can pop them in, pop them out real easy. And all we're going to do is fill up our ice cube tray with these little cubes of our basil. You absolutely could freeze this in baggies. You could freeze this in half-pint jars. I just find that basil is something that I usually don't need a whole lot of at one time. So it makes it hard to only get out a very small amount at a time when I've used the baggie or jar method. And using the ice cube trays just allow you to get just 1 or 2 basically tablespoons worth essentially a tablespoon per hole is what these ice cube trays are. And you can find these on Amazon, you can find these at Walmart. I'll have some linked in the description box below. But they are fun and versatile. We have done candies in these, we've done pesto in these, we've done little popsicle treat things without the stick. It's just a fun way to, and of course ice, it works good for ice too. Doesn't break as easily as the hard trays do. Okay, I'm going to get these loaded up and then we will put them in the freezer. And once they're frozen, all you have to do is plop them out and put them in a baggie. And when you're ready to use, you can take out ever how many you like. Okay, our basil cubes are completely frozen solid, so I wanted to share how I packaged them for the freezer. You can absolutely just put them in a freezer bag and call it good, but these cubes, because of how much surface area is exposed to the freezer air and all that, they do have a tendency to get freezer burn or to get covered in ice crystals pretty easily. So if you're going to be making a whole bunch of these and not using them within a few months, the ideal thing is going to be to vacuum seal them. But I don't know about you, I don't want to sit here and vacuum seal each cube individually. That is going to be ideal. And certainly by all means do that if you would like to. It is going to be the best way. But I am not going to sit here and vacuum seal each cube individually. Now I only have a few here with like 12 or something like that, 10. But I'm making a whole lot more of these, so I only did one tray for the camera. But I'm going to be making a whole lot more of those, so I do not want to sit here and vacuum seal each tray individually. So what I'm going to do is show you an alternative way to get not a 100% vacuum seal, but to get a pretty close alternative with a bowl of water and your baggie. So as you can see, I put my basil cubes in my bowl of water. I'm going to zip it all the way, but I'm going to leave just a little corner right here. And I'm going to slowly lower the bag into the water. And I'm going to push it down and allow that water to completely submerge the bag, except for the open tip that I have right here. So I'm going to keep on pushing down. I know you can't really see inside the bowl, but y'all can picture what's going on here, and I'll show you the result in just a minute. Okay, I'm almost at the tip, and then I'm just going to seal it shut real quick, just like that, okay? And here is the result. It's kind of hard to see, but before we did this, the bag wasn't really suctioned down over the cubes like it is now. It's like I said, it's not going to be a vacuum seal, but it is a much tighter seal. If you can see it from the edge, this is one of those square bags where it kind of stands up on the bottom, so it's kind of really wrinkly down here. It's making it hard to see. But if you can look at it from the side, you can see that it's got a little bit of a vacuum going on. Like I said, not 100% vacuum seal. You can see it's suctioned to the cubes. And it's just a good alternative if you don't want to do the tedious task of vacuum sealing each cube individually. But since we did freeze them, we flash froze them before putting them in the bag, it's really easy to just come in and grab one cube as we need it. Okay, y'all, I hope that was helpful to you. I have a lot more of these to do, and I'm going to get going. We'll see y'all next time. Bye.